Hi, welcome to Above and Beyond Creative Sewing. My name is Al, and today I'm going to teach you how to load the Bernina Q-series frame. The Bernina Q-series is Bernina's long arm, and this system that I'm going to show you makes it very easy to load and install your quilt backing, your top, and your batting. So I've already gone ahead and cut my backing. This is extra wide backing, so we're just going to lay this on the frame. Now, of course, because this is the backing, I want it to be right side down. And so simply, I'm going to drape the quilt backing onto the frame right side down, just like this. So take a look at this. I'm just going to go ahead and drape it on there, just like that. And I'm going to spread it out so that it covers the whole quilt frame. Okay. Then I'm just going to grab the bottom end and just flip it over. So the best way to do this is to load it with the direction of the fabric in the right orientation. So this is going to be right side down because it's the backing, so I'm going to lay it on the frame right side down. Now your backing leader is the top one right over here. And you'll notice that there's dotted lines where you can line things up. The center dotted line is much bolder. So if you can see the difference, that's going to be the center. Now, when we install these frames in your home, we line up all the leaders to the perfect center. So all these bold centers are going to match from your backing leader, your quilt top leader, and your take-up leader. So what I've done is on the backing fabric, I've cut just a little V-notch at the center point on my width. So I'm going to match that V-notch with the bold line on the leader. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit, just like that, so it sticks over the end. And I'm going to take a pin and start pinning. You want to be careful that you pin at the same distance from the edge of the leader as you go across. So that one's not quite right. I'm going to just redo that so that this stays level all the way across. And then I'm simply going to start pinning from the center to the left every couple of inches, and make my way all the way across to the other end. So while I do that, we'll take a little pause, and I'll join you when I have this all pinned on. So I've gone from the center all the way to the left. Now I'm going to go from the center to the right pinning, but now it's important to remember when you're pinning from the center to the right to pin in the opposite direction. The reason you want to do that is when you go to smooth the quilt on the roll, you don't want to get the pins to stick your fingers. So make sure to remember to go from center to the right with the pins going in the same direction. So I'll go ahead and pin from the center all the way to the right, and we'll be right back, and I'll show you when that's all done. We'll go to the next step. So everything is pinned on here now. I went from the center to the right and the center to the left. So our quilt backing is pinned on to the back leader. Now I'm just going to go ahead and roll it on. Now you'll see, because I pinned in opposite directions, I can safely smooth it out to the sides without worrying about getting stuck with the pins. Every once in a while, just adjust your fabric, make sure that you're loading it on properly. And I'm just going to feed that under there. There we go. And then just start rolling it right on to your backing leader, which is again the top leader. And join me in just a moment. We'll have this all loaded on, and then we'll pin it to our take-up leader. Okay, so we've got our quilt backing all on the loaded onto the quilt rail. I went ahead and rolled it all on, so it's now kind of just staying there by itself. And now we're going to do the quilt top rail. And one thing I didn't point out before is that the leaders are marked top. This one's bottom, and that one is the take-up rail. Now you'll also notice that the ratchet on the rail is engaged, so it only turns in one direction. I'm going to release the ratchet so I can turn it in either direction. I'm just going to put it back down. So here's the quilt top. Of course, I want to put it with the top towards the back. And since it's the quilt top, I need to load this right side up. So the backing we did right side down. The quilt top, we're going to load it on right side up. So go ahead and do that. Whoops. It's a big one. go. And if you're not sure which way to roll it onto the rail, what I find is that if you keep the quilt ratchet, the ratchet on, it'll only roll in one direction, which is the correct direction. So if you're not sure and you don't remember exactly what to do, leave the ratchet on, pin it, and then roll it on with the ratchet engaged. So you can't make a mistake that way. It does make a little bit of noise when you're rolling it on, so you can start with the ratchet engaged and then finish it with it off, so it's not as noisy for you. So again, I marked the centers of the quilt top with a little notch. You can also use a marking pen or put a pin there, but I find that little notch stays. The marking pen, it might not, it might kind of rub off. The pin may fall out. With the little notch, you know exactly where it is. And once again, I'm going to go to the bold marks right here in the center. I'm going to line up the quilt top with those marks, make sure it all matches, and then I'm going to start pinning it. And once again, I'm going to pin from center to left in this direction, and then I'll pin from the center to the right in the other direction. So join me in just a few seconds. I'll have this pinned on, and then we'll do the right side. So once again, I've pinned the quilt from the center to all the way to the left. Now I'm going to reverse the process and pin towards the right. So again, to prevent you from getting poked or stuck by any of the pins, we're going to again go from the center, and now I'm going to make my way across to the right. And once I get this all done, we'll be ready to attach this to our take-up leader and start quilting. So join me in just a moment. So our quilt top is now pinned on to the top leader. And once again, I've made the pins go from center to right and center to left, so that when you smooth out the quilt, you're not going to get stuck. The ratchet is engaged, so as I roll this on, it's going to make noise. You hear that? That's the ratchet. So what I recommend is, if you're not sure how to load your quilt, do it with the ratchet engaged to start with. Once you start rolling it on, you can take the ratchet off, and now it'll be nice and quiet. So it gives you a little bit quieter work area here. So now I'm going to go ahead and just roll this on and smooth it out as I go. As you can see, I'm always working from the center to the right and the center to the left. And I'll join you in just a moment when I get this all loaded on. Okay, so I have my quilt top pinned on to the top leader, which is actually the bottom leader, and I have my backing pinned on to the backing leader. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way, lower it down, just to get it out of my way so I can work. And then I'm going to pin the backing first to my quilt take-up leader. Now remember, there's a dead bar on the Bernina, so you've got to make sure your take-up leader is behind the dead bar. Now, I've done it the other way, and it doesn't work, so make sure you tuck it under, and then bring your backing leader out to meet your backing fabric. So again, I have my notch right there, which is my center, and I have my bold center marking on my leader. I'm going to line those two up, and I'm going to get a pin and start pinning. And remember, once again, same as I did on my top and my backing, I'm going to pin center left first, and then center right in the opposite direction. So I'll go ahead and get this pinned on. I'll join you in just a moment. Okay, so we've got our backing attached to our take-up leader, and now I'm going to go ahead and lay my batting down. And this, you're just going to lay it right on top, smooth it out to the edges, just like so. Remember, you always want to have a little bit of overlap with your batting, so don't be stingy with how much batting you use. And one of the other things I always do is I make my batting, my backing and my batting a little bit bigger than the quilt top, and that gives me a place to go ahead and check tension and make sure everything's going to sew okay. Once I have that laid out, I'm just going to spread this out behind the quilt top rail, just like that. And then just try to smooth it out under there so it rolls out nice and smoothly. Make sure there's no kinks in it, just like that. So now we're going to go ahead and just smooth that out, make sure it's laying good and there's no bunching or anything anywhere. If you see something, just go ahead and fix it, just like so. Great. And now we're going to raise our quilt top rail, just like that. Release the ratchet, and then unroll this to let that notch that we put in the quilt top match the center mark on the take-up leader. And then we're going to go ahead and smooth this all out. Once I have that on there approximately where I want it, I'm going to unroll a bunch of the quilt top and bring the rail down. The reason you unroll a bunch of it is because you don't want it pulling your quilt top out of place. Now you can make sure that your centers are lined up, which I can see my little notch is perfectly lined up. And we can go ahead and baste this on. Now, one thing I didn't do, the Q-series machine has a little bit of a gap from the needle to the dead bar. So I need to unroll this a little bit so that I can go ahead and baste this on the very edge of the quilt top. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen my back ratchet and just simply roll my backing bar until I'm kind of near the edge. And you see that? Now the machine is going to ride right along that dead bar and give me a nice basting right on the edge of the quilt. Okay? So once again, just make sure everything is nice and smooth. Don't worry about tightening it up just yet. We just want to baste this together. And just kind of go over that a little bit. Move your machine to the center. And I can see that I'm just a little bit off, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this back a little bit. I'm not quite lined up where I want to be. There we go. Okay. And just adjust it as need be. Don't skimp on this step because you want to make sure that you are lined up all the way across. And just run the machine to make sure that everything looks good. And it all looks okay to me right now. But I'm still going to double check it because you're better off doing it right the first time. Great, so I'm all lined up. I'm ready to baste this on. I'm going to come to that center mark. And I am ready. I'm going to switch my machine to BSR 2. And I'm going to lower the stitches per inch all the way down to about 5 stitches per inch. BSR 3 is a basting function, but it only goes 1, 2, or 4 stitches, which is fine, but I like 5 stitches. So I'm going to use the BSR 2 to tell it I want to do 5 stitches per inch for the basting. So now I'm ready to go ahead and baste this on. I've got it on 5 stitches per inch. I'm all ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit the start button to get myself started. And I could bring up the bobbin thread now if I wanted to by simply bringing the needle up and down one time. So let's go ahead and do that. And there's my bobbin thread. Okay. Now I can go ahead and start basting to the left. So always go from the center and pick a direction to go in. And then I keep my fingers on here to keep everything smooth as I go. And you just go nice and slow on your way across. And then once I get to the end here, I'll cut my thread, I'll go back to the center and start working my way from center to the right. So I'll go ahead and do that in just a moment. Sit tight. So now I'm back at the center, and now I'm going to do from the center to the right. And again, I'm going to use my hand to smooth the fabric. You don't want to get any kinks or anything in the fabric as you're going across. You'll keep it all nice and smooth. If you start to see the fabric moving a little bit, you can just adjust it and then keep going. And there we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and I'll join you in just a moment. We'll roll it up. So we have our quilt basted to our backing and our batting. It's all attached to our take-up leader. And now it's time to go ahead and smooth everything out and get us all ready for quilting. I'm going to bring the top fabric back up and roll it up a little bit. And I want to just go ahead and smooth the batting, make sure that there's no bumps or ridges or anything in there. Now I'm going to take the top and I'm going to do it a little bit tighter. I'm going to bring it down as I unroll. And that should give me a nice smooth area to work with. At this point, you may want to tighten up your backing a little bit and your quilt top. Ooh, we have to engage our ratchet first. Now we can go ahead and lock that in position. You want to have a little bit of spring here. You don't want it to be too tight. And then just give it a little stretch as needed. And we are ready to quilt. So that closes out this video on installing the quilt onto our quilt frame. Please call us if you have any questions, but it's a pretty straightforward process. If you watch the video step by step, you'll be able to do it yourself. For my next video, we're going to set up the Q-matic and we're going to go ahead and get this quilt started. So thanks so much for joining us. Again, my name is Al and we are Above and Beyond Creative Sewing. Take care.